Hello, Internet. Thank you once again for joining me to talk all things vertical drama. I've managed to find another willing person who's happy to talk to me, and
More
it's
than
the
willing.
amazing Havon Baraka, who is one of my favourite actors. Every vertical I think he appears in, he elevates just by being there and making it better. So, having given him that introduction, I'm now going to ask him to say hello to you and tell you a little bit about himself.
Well, hello, world. My name is Havon Baraka. Thank you so much for saying such kind things, Jen. A little bit about myself. I'm from Atlantic City, New Jersey. Anything that anybody's ever heard or said about Jersey is 100% true. No, I've had a very interesting, very entertaining, very eventful life. My passion is writing. Uh, I'm trying to think. I've been acting, so I want to say since 2018. Yeah. So I mean, I still consider myself still really green at acting. So because people have been in the game for decades and stuff like that. So I never want to disrespect an actor by just saying like oh I am on the same level and stuff like that. So but yeah, I'm a very much a proud writer.
So, is that what your childhood passion was then, writing and telling stories that way?
Oh yeah. So when I was 5 years old, I mean I've told this story probably ad nauseum for people, but I was watching. I want to say Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, and I was seeing Short Round, and I think every cinephile at a certain point like was like I want to be an actor. I want to be involved. They know they want to be involved in film in some capacity. And I said out loud, I was like, hey, I want to be an actor. And my father was like, oh, you're too ugly to be in front of a camera. And my my autistic brain like processed like that's just that word is law. Like that's just it was just a
Mm.
fact. So it was I took it like so literal. It was just like it didn't even hurt. And but I was like I knew I wanted to be involved in film in some capacity. So I was like, oh, I'll just write. And my path to acting was very strange. My mentor, uh, his best friend, she was my acting professor, and because I went to school for playwriting and screenwriting at Drexel, and we had to take all facets of filmmaking. So obviously, we had to have an acting class. She pulls me to the side after our midterm, which was a monologue, and she says, like, "Hey, like, can I talk to you about something?" I was like, "Yeah." She was like, "So I've read your works; it's really, really good." And she was like, "Have you ever considered acting?" I was like, "Every day." And she's like, "Well, maybe you should pursue it." And I was like, I can't. And she's like, "What do you mean you can't?" And I'm looking at her like, I'm like, well, you know why. And she's like, what? And I'm like, I'm ugly. And she's like, oh my God. She was like, sweetheart, no, you are not ugly. And she's like, and even if you were, there's a place in Hollywood for you. And so that little, that belief in me that I could be in front of a camera, which I always appreciate Jerry for. I think without that, I don't think I would have had any sort of comfort or any sort of motivation to ever step in front of a camera. So I finally came to LA, still pursuing writing, writing every day. And I saw, it's very cliche, saw a casting call for something. I did it. And then what they didn't tell you was it was a scene study, and you're doing it in front of these future filmmakers, future directors, all that stuff. What they didn't tell you is that they critique your performance afterwards. And so I was like, I'm just going to jump in the deep end of the pool. I'm going to give it my all. Why not? And I did. And some actors, they couldn't handle the criticisms. Like certain actors like stormed out. And I was like, no, but this is the only way I can get better. Like,
Mm.
let me know what I'm doing wrong. And I did. And I'm waiting. And no one said anything bad. And they gave me nothing but compliments. And I had some of them were asking me to be like to audition for their short films. And like it meant the world. And I think I keep that same mentality anytime I audition, where I'm just like, just give it your all. Just pretend this is your role for 5 minutes and you're showing the director, the casting director, the audience, like anybody who's watching, you're showing this is what I would do with this for this little bit of time. So yeah.
That's amazing. And thank goodness that lady, is it Jerry, you said?
Jerry, yeah, Jerry.
We have her to thank.
Yes.
He saw something, had that conversation, and could reprogram what you've been told and be like, no, 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 you need to be in front of a camera.
Yes.
Jerry,
So yeah, I thank her so much. Yeah.
that's brilliant. Okay, so what was your first paid acting job?
My first paid acting job. Because I remember I did a few pro bono stuff. My first acting job. I think I believe it was a student film. And I think it paid like like $100 a day. And I remember like that, like I was just like, like I was like, I remember I took it so deeply that I was like, someone is paying me to say words in front of a camera. But I think my first like one that I can remember, it was what are they called? Not recreation, recreation, like when they redo like this is what happened in the scene, like those crime scene investigation
The reenactment.
Yeah, reenactment. Yes,
Yes.
thank you, Jen. So and I went in and I was supposed to be playing the best friend, the one who accidentally is the murderer. Like he didn't mean to kill his friend. It was gun goes off, meant to. It was one of those. And they were like, in this scene, you're talking to the cops and we want you to cry. And so I was like, okay. So I did. And the casting director, she stops the audition tape and she's like, hey, Vaughn, like you can cry on cue. And I was like, I need like, like maybe like 30 seconds, but sure, I could do that. She was like, oh my God, that's brilliant. She's like, just do it again. She was like, all right, as soon as I say action, just cry. And so she's like, cry. I was like, like, do all the things. And on my drive home, they call me up, casting calls me up. I didn't even get home yet. And they're like, hey, we don't want you for the best friend. I was like, okay. They're like, we want you as the victim. And I was like, okay. They're like, that's the lead. And I was like, oh my God, sure. And that was my first paying gig. And I was like a kid in a candy store. Cause, it was just seeing how it worked in that aspect, going from background to like, oh no, I see background over there. And like, I'm the person that's like, oh no, like, like I'm being catered to. I'm the one that's like, okay, like, do you need anything? Do you want to rehearse? And it was like a nice big stepping stone for me. And it was just, again, I'm all about the climb. A lot of people want to do leaps. I'm more about like, yeah, I don't mind doing a slow climb because I try to learn from each performance, each thing. And this one, it was a really cool experience. And again, it just gave me more motivation. It gave me a little bit more confidence that I can keep doing these things. So
I have to ask, do you remember what you bought with it? Like first paycheck? Because sometimes you have to get something.
Oh, so I'm a huge, super duper nerd. And I bought a Batman volume. I bought hold on, I can remember it because I remember I bought a Daredevil volume. What did I buy with? I think I bought Batgirl Year One, actually. Batgirl Year One. That's one of my favorites. Because I like the villains Firefly, and I loved it. And yeah, I'm still a dork. So yeah, I bought comic books.
I love that, but that's like, well, first of all, it's an investment. Comic book never loses value. So this
Yes.
is a good investment. And also, I love that there's like a little physical thing. So when I did my first ever paying job, which was just like a one-day thing of putting things in an envelope, I went and bought like this candle holder just so basically that was the paycheck. But I was like, oh, this thing that I earned.
No, something, that you earn.
Yeah.
It was like, so, yeah, you always associate it with that. Yeah. So yeah.
Okay, so working as an actor in LA. Was this around 2018, then 2019, when you got this first paid job?
Mm-hmm.
What's the acting scene like in LA? And how does COVID impact that? Basically, can you give us a little history lesson?
Okay, so acting pre-COVID was, which I do miss, it would be you go to a studio and there'd be a small hallway where all the actors are sitting. And there'd be different rooms for different type of things that they were shooting. And of course, there'd be a table where the sides are in case like, you didn't print them. And then you're kind of either you're learning your lines. Some people are learning their lines. Some people are mingling. Some people are trying to like, do their process. Some people are listening to music. Some people are off by themselves. Some people are pacing, still rehearsing their lines. And then somebody comes out, they call you in. And I miss it because you go in and I always say like, yeah, you can memorize the lines. You can give the performance of what you're going for, but maybe that wasn't what the character was supposed to be like. Like I could come in and be like, okay, I'm going to be really sad and serious. And they could be like, oh no, he's not supposed to be sad and serious. He's supposed to be kind of sarcastic or something like that. And I miss that about going into an office because, the director says like, hey, no, like this. And I know it's very cliche to say, but you can feel their energies and,
You've got something to read off, haven't you? You could see just the body language. Yeah.
Exactly. Oh yeah, that's true. And it just makes, and it allows you to move around. I love moving and talking. probably the Puerto Rican in me. But I like moving and talking. I like doing things with my hands. I'm very lively and stuff like that. And so, well, I can be, I should say. But now, post COVID, it's it is a different type of advantage to do a self tape when you just film it, because you can technically mess up as many times as you need to, and you keep going until you perfect it. Obviously, when you walk into a room, you have what, two, maybe three chances, sometimes even one. But when you self tape, yeah, it's that sometimes, you know, you kind of really have to live in the character to the point where it's like it doesn't matter if your reader isn't exactly the best actor, the best reader. And you kind of like have to, you're still kind of limited in like your movement, because you kind of like you can't do too much, because, you know, your viewer might be like, oh, well, I only see like the bottom half of his mouth. Like, you know, great performance. Wish I could have seen him. But yeah, how COVID is. I was just talking about this with somebody. What I do like post COVID regulations on set, people feel less guilty when they're sick to not come to work. So
Oh, interesting.
and I like that for people. I'm not saying, I mean, I've been lucky, you know, let me knock on wood. It's never happened to me yet, but
Oh.
I do like in a world where people feel so guilty when they rest on their off days. Some people feel bad of just not working. Like it's their off day and they're like, I feel like I have to be doing something. And it's I like that with COVID now. It's like, hey, are you feeling under the weather? Well, don't come in. Like, you know, let's not spread that. Stay home. So that is one thing I think that's positive about sets post COVID.
When you're doing the self tapes, do you, because I know one or two people have mentioned to me that they'll have a scene partner, so they'll have someone else so they can sort of do it together. Do you have that, or is it you and the camera?
So I usually ask around. I wish I had a go-to person. That would be nice. When I was in relationships, especially, I was involved with an actress. That was just obviously like we could just help each other like all day long, and you didn't feel bad. Sometimes you feel guilty when you ask like, "Hey Jen, what are you doing? Are you free? Are you sure you're free? Do you have 2 hours?" Like, you know, like, because so yeah, you feel bad about asking people to help you out sometimes. But when it's with another actor, actress, like, yeah, you don't feel as guilty. But yeah, what I do is I have a specific spot where I look on two sides, and I just hit up somebody on Zoom, and I try my best to, like I say, like immerse myself so much that it doesn't matter that they're not in the room with me.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for answering that. I was just intrigued.
Yeah.
So what were your favourite roles that you've done sort of before vertical dramas came into your world? Just, is there something you, yeah, so before we get to vertical dramas, you know, just, is there a role that you want to go, I
Oh,
loved that, I rocked that, people need to watch this?
one of my favorite roles. So I guest starred on Equalizer, and that was one of the best experiences I've ever had. I loved playing that role. I loved the entire shoot. Getting to work with Queen Latifah, she was one of the kindest people ever to me. She gave me the confidence because for a long time, a lot of actors really didn't like me, and I felt alone often on sets. And it got to the point where, you know, I'd come off strange or I'd come off other for, you know, why, you
We're
know.
going to cover this. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but you understand.
Yeah.
And sometimes it gets to the point where you just don't want to say anything. But then when you don't say anything, then people still make assumptions anyway. But working with her and just watching her just move as a person, move as a performer, and she said one of the kindest things ever to me, a co-star's ever said to me. And after that, I was like, I'm gonna be okay. I'm like, it's like I'm not I don't know what the term is. I'm not this despicable. And because it was something that she really didn't have to say. And that was one of my favorite roles. I did enjoy my role on Station 19. It was my first union gig. And so again, I was a kid in a candy store, and not just that, but like what that role meant to so many people. Cause I still to this day sometimes get DMs and messages from people that are on the spectrum or know someone on the spectrum, related to someone on the spectrum. They're saying like your performance like meant so much to me for A, B, C, D. And I, so I save them sometimes because like, I really appreciate that someone took the time out to say that to me. And I'm glad that I wanted to do a performance that gave justice to that. Things that whether I had experienced them or things that like, my friends have gone through that are also on the spectrum. So yeah, and then lastly, there was a role where it was a sci-fi comedy piece. It's called Skyvault. And we had done a pilot filmed in Texas. That was it was so fun. It was so fun. First flying off to Texas. I'd never been to Austin, Texas before, and I was like, oh my God, like it is Austin, Texas does not know it's in Texas. I felt like I was in New York. I was like, where am I? It was such a cool experience. I had great co-stars. I met one of the greatest actors I've ever met. He should be on a red carpet somewhere, Jim Shubin. Ali Sims, also talented, very passionate performer. The creators, they had a following on YouTube. They have a huge following on YouTube. Door Monster, they are on YouTube, and they had such a dedicated following. And the fact that they trusted me with that role, it just meant the world. And it was so fun because I played the role. I was like, I'm gonna play it like Star-Lord meets Han Solo. It was just a fun, slightly goofy but still affable role. And that one was always like nice for me.
And we've covered what we are both geeks, so we've covered as well. But anything where you can lean into that sort of universe has got to be fun.
Yeah.
I think we should cover it now because we've already talked a bit about it before we go to verticals. So you and I mean, I chat to people on Instagram, but obviously you mentioned, I think in your Instagram bio, that you're neurodivergent and autistic. And I haven't mentioned it, but I've got ADHD. And we are both, I've gone firm believer that these are our superpowers.
I think there are certain advantages I've learned that helps me with certain things. And I didn't realize it at first because I don't know if you've ever been through this or anybody else that's also neurodivergent has ever experienced. But have you ever thought like, okay, well, I can do it, so everybody must be able to do it? I've had that thought. I never thought like I was special at all. And when I find out like, oh, like that isn't easy for everybody else. Like, so I know exactly what you mean. So for example, like, cause I think people have to remember when I'm playing a role, I am a neurodivergent playing a neurotypical playing a role. I'm like essentially playing two roles. Yes. And so, yes.
Yes.
So yeah, you get it. So for me, I'm like, okay, how would a neurotypical be in this? And it's through my observations of people, watching movies, watching how other people are. And it's just, it's that being observant. Cause I say it all the time. I'm like, I feel like I'm a Martian and that the Martians, they just like left me here to study humanity and they forgot to pick me back up. And so in my studies of humans, it's just very much like, I'm like, okay, this is how, through the information that I've gathered, it's actually rather scientific kind of how I go about it. And I just apply that to like how I do roles. My memory, I have an eidetic memory that helps me out a lot. I tend to mask. So like masking, like, I'm like, I've been acting for a long time. I had to survive neurotypical spaces. So yeah, I feel like, and I think me just also, I know I can come off intense because, I'm not always emoting. So I feel like that helps me with intense roles. Like, I know how to like get across a lot with very little, cause like, that's just, I feel like that's kind of just me in general. And I feel like being on the spectrum, like, I think that allows me to be susceptible to playing more type A personalities, more people that are like, okay, we're big on the details, very big on that type of thing. And I think that's what's helped me with playing assistants, as in verticals and stuff like that. But then also on the flip side, when I'm playing like the goofy best friend, it's kind of like, okay, this is through I've observed through stand-up comedy, comedians and stuff like that. And it's kind of like putting all that information, kind of putting it all together, you know, adding in my little bit of spice to it, like my imagination and stuff like that. And I think that's kind of like, yeah, so it has been very, very helpful.
I just think that's phenomenal because I hadn't
Mhm.
even thought about that. But yeah, of course, you're doing 2 levels.
Yes.
Oh, I just you've blown my mind. There was a moment my brain went, wow.
Mhm.
And you're absolutely brilliant at it because you're so good.
Thank
But
you.
I do want to say, I think it's amazing that you do like just talk about it and own it, because I think that was just, if you look back to like when you were a kid, that's what helps all the kids coming through of adults going, yeah, this is it, this is what happens, this is how the world is, this is how I deal with it. And it just helps kids so much. That's why I just think it's really important that you do what you do.
I feel like for me, like growing up, because I wasn't always comfortable talking about it because obviously not everybody accepts it about
Mm,
like ADHD, BPD, ASD, all that stuff.
mm,
And so when I finally did, like, lack of better phrasing, like came out the closet about it,
mm. Yeah.
um, uh, when I was open about it with a few of my friends, I was lucky because they were very accepting. And my family, my mother has been so supportive. And I know that's a luxury because not
Mm.
all parents are supportive of their ND children, which is a shame. But my mom, I was very lucky. She has been such a cheerleader as far as it goes, and so I try and be open about it as much as I can because I want other people to like not feel ashamed. I want them to be proud about it, or even anybody that is related or has any type of connection to somebody on the spectrum. Like, you know, this is nothing to be ashamed of. There's something to take pride in. I mean, I'll be the first one to say, I'm like, there's a lot of bad things about me, but one of the few things that I actually think is a good thing about me is my autism. And I'm so happy about that. You know, I it's been a journey, and because I've been so secretive about it when I was younger, it's more like now I'm at a point where no one's going to take this away from me. I'm going to shout this to the heavens if I have to. And I feel like anything that they're proud of about themselves, like pretty much anything, as long as it's not harmful to anybody,
Yeah.
um, they should be proud about it. That's why, like, when we spoke about, like, you know, we're both neurodivergent, like, you just feel that instant connect because, like, you could just be yourself,
Yeah.
you know? And it's like, these aren't quirks anymore. It's just who we are.
That's the key thing, I think, isn't it? For me, it's just like, okay, it's not that I don't fit in or why can't I manage that? It's just like, this is my brain. My brain works differently. And then because I have like the geek, I was just saying, I can research now. So
Yeah.
now I was just like, you know, you dive into all the reading. Oh, now I understand this, blah, blah, blah. So yeah, I felt really empowered once I kind of twigged that was what was going on with my brain.
Yeah, and you allows yourself, and when you find out about it and you learn a little bit more about your identity, I always encourage people. I'm like, if please investigate because you'll start to learn. Because this happened with me, like my mom would tell me things like at post diagnosis, like I thought that these were things that I was like, oh, like this is only a Vaughn thing, but it kind of helped when it was like, oh no, this is you're not alone in this behavior.
Mm.
Like when I was a kid, real quick story. If I like somebody, because I wouldn't talk to anybody, if I like someone, I would line up my Batman toys in a straight line next to them, and I would stand back, and like that's how I got across. And I thought that was, and I didn't even remember that. My mom told me that, and come to find out later, like that's an autism thing, you know, like that's that of lining up, like, you know, whether it's toys, whether it's cars, like anything like that, or just let's say me and you were supposed to go to McDonald's, and in the middle of it, like you're just like, hey, now we're gonna go to Wendy's. I'm like, wait a minute. Like I used to think, I'm like, wait, why am I just like, I can't, like, why are you changing plans? Like, what's going on? Like, I need to regroup. I need to like mentally prepare for this. And I'm thinking, like, am I fragile? Am I delicate? But no, when I found out like later, it's like, no, like we're you know, obviously big on routine, big on like mental preparation, stuff like that. So yeah.
And the thing I think that's great is communicating about it, because my best friend is autistic, and
Mhm.
for her, it's hearing you talk about it. It's like hearing her talk about it, and like reframing everything. It's just amazing. She
Yeah.
says exactly the same thing. I feel like a Martian kind of come down to the planet. But we've had a lot of joy of just working out how to communicate with each other, because it's exactly that. That's what would happen. She would want the plan. I would go, yeah, let's go here, let's go that, let's go that. And then it's like, right, how do we make this work for both of
Yeah.
us? And it's just, you just have to laugh. It's really funny, but we get there. So it's
That's how I'm with my cousin.
communicating. That's all
Oh
it
yeah,
is.
no, I completely agree. That's how I think I might have said this to you before. That's how I'm with my cousin. We talk like pretty much every day. One of my closest buddies also has ADHD. Like I said, my cousin has ADHD, and it's just it's like this, But there is like a compromise. It's like I think like the biggest thing for me, like with my cousin, like what we had to like work on. Like I'm very much like I don't like to be interrupted, but like I know with how his ADHD, like how it emerges is like he doesn't want to lose the thought. So it's like we both like I have to be patient, but he has to like also like like keep himself in check. But it's like but it's worth it. It's kind of like you're going through it together. So
I adore that. That's
yeah.
just wonderful. I just want to say thank you for talking about that, because I do think it's very helpful. Even though we've got a bit away from verticals, I feel we should probably come back to verticals now.
I'm so sorry. Yeah.
Like, well, no, it's my fault. I brought it up, and they're like, Jen, when are we getting to the verticals?
Yeah.
So you're acting in LA.
Mhm.
When do you first come across verticals? When does things start popping up and you're aware of them?
So I auditioned for a role of I believe his name was Kane, Beta Kane, and it was for Alpha's daughter, and it was in August. I remember this, and I just thought it was just like another shebang, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't mind playing this role, and they said like I love playing. I know this is a Maverick opinion. I know this makes me corny, but I don't mind. I like playing the good guy. I really, really do. Maybe because I'm a geek and I've been growing up like reading comics and stuff like that. But Beta Kane it was supposed to be that he was fair. He was, even though like what they were doing was wrong because they overthrew their captors or their masters, and he's the only one that's treating Daphne with kindness and trying to like convince his alpha like, hey man, you should treat her right. And so I auditioned for the role, and I booked it. And so we get on set, and I'm the ideal person in the commercial. So I'm like, so they're like, hey, like, don't and too much. They're like, and this is, I don't know if this was early in the vertical game or not, but I was like, okay. They're like, yeah, because we're shooting this vertically. And I was like, oh, yeah. I remember y'all said it in the casting call. So I was like, how are y'all going to do that? And so the camera was like that. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I was like, so like, oh my God. Like, so, I made sure, I thought I was newest to the vertical game. So I was like, I'm going to try and learn all these lines, all this jargon, because that's what usually happens when you're the beta. You have to know all the jargon. You have to know all the moon packs and all the crescent packs, and you have to know all like, the lunas and the second, the third.
You are there for the exposition, aren't you? We need
Exactly.
you as a viewer.
Exactly. So I'm like, I can't mess this up. And it was a learning experience because again, you can't move too much because you could sneeze and you're like, okay, you're off camera. It's like, oh man. But no, it was interesting, and it was a nice challenge. And I thought because of all the jargon and because of that it was vertical and we didn't have a lot of takes, I was like, this is yet another learning experience. And I embraced it. And I know that not too many people share this. But I always made sure that even if I don't agree with everything that's happening in the script, respect the script. I'm not above this script. And so every character I've ever played, I've always treated that role with respect. And that's why I get so happy when vertical fans do hit me up, present company included, and say like, I enjoyed your performance, because I never wanted to disrespect the person I am playing, and I never wanted to disrespect the audience. So
that's really interesting that you say that, because that is one of the things that I think we can see as fans, and it comes across on the screen, and that will be why you get those comments, because we can see the people who are like, I'm going to work with what I've got and do my best and deliver and make it as real as I can, and the ones who are like, yeah, this isn't great, and it comes across. And I think it's the people who lean into it. That's how you elevate it. And then the stories get better and the scripts get better. Now you do play, you're very good at assistants. In fact, you were nominated for best hardest working CEO's assistant, which, as we know in Vertland, is a very full category because there's so many of you. How do you enjoy those roles? And is there one that particularly stands out to you as more fun?
I love playing them because, like I said before, they're always a good person. And they, at the very least, are giving, usually, like, you know, there's a lot of verticals where the female lead is not given a chance by the billionaires or by the PACs and stuff like that. And usually the character I'm playing is the one who is giving her a chance, who is a semi-rock, like an ally. And also at the same time, he does usually hold the male lead that's being a jerk. He holds him accountable. He's just like, hey man, treat her right. You know, like, or you're kind of fucking up. And I enjoy that role of just being the decent person. One that stuck out to me, I would say, I think, well, I wasn't an assistant. I was a best friend. I've also played best friend roles. I got to work with Ryan Watson. That was, it was for Hot Quarterback's Farm Girl Crush.
That's the title.
Yeah, that is a title. There should be no confusion as to what it's about. I got to play his best friend, and we didn't have a lot of time. Like, our characters didn't have a lot of time together. So I was very much like, I got to make this count. And I'm very big on, I need to make the audience believe I am this person's best friend. I need them to believe that I am this person's assistant, their lieutenant, blah, blah, blah. And Ryan and we had worked within the same vertical another time, but our characters never interacted. But for this one, it was so easy. And like, he pulled me to the side, and he was so kind. He was so great. He was just like, hey man, this is like, I was so happy when I saw you, like, that you were a part of this. He was like, I knew we were just going to instantly click and have chemistry. And I saw it, and I saw it. I was like, yo, we do feel like best friends. Who else did I get to work with? I got to work with Samantha Andrews on Love Me, Bite Me. That was great. We're still really great friends to this day. Again, I was playing a lieutenant. She was the female lead, and I was like her semi ally, and that was effing great. I'm trying to think of, there's oh, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Sorry.
So it's right. I was going to ask you about, there's one way you're not a bad guy. But it's possibly one where you've been closest, and it's the one where I really noticed you, which is when you're Adam in How Not to Date Your Neighbor.
That was an experience. So the director, she told me, she was straight up, which I thought was great. I'm from the East Coast. I'm all about transparency and honesty and truthfulness. And she was like, hey, just to let you know, like, you might not get it because, you know, we're not sure. Like, you know, like, we're seeing other people, but, you know, I loved your performance. And I'm thinking, when a director says that, that's like, okay, well, that means I'm probably not going to get it. She was just saying, like, you know, she really enjoyed it. So when I got it, she was like, hey, like, have fun with it. And because there were two villains. I was antagonistic. Yeah. And so she was like, you're the one that's not meant to be taken too seriously, because, you know, you're a goof. And, so I was like, okay. So my entire thought was, because, you know, I've done stand-up comedy, I've done improv. I'm like, I want to make the two leads break as much as I can. And there's so many takes. I wish they could show the blooper reel, because there's a scene where Gio, fantastic man, sweetheart, Lana, same thing, sweetheart, awesome. There's a scene where I'm like being a jerk to him, and he's supposed to pick up the bat. You know that scene, and, like, you know, he walks past me. I did so many other takes. I always said, I was like, I'm going to do something different so they don't know what I'm going to do. I did one where I hid behind her. I, like, pulled her forward. I, like, made a face. I duck. Like, I did all these things. And we couldn't use certain takes, so, like, where it was on him, because he would break and he would laugh. And I was like, I'm doing this on purpose. Same thing with Lana. I always wanted to make them laugh. And I was happy, like, when I saw the reviews on it, that, you know, they were like, it was the closest thing I ever came to being a villain, but it was he still was. It was just, he's like a harmless fool, you know.
That's the thing. He's not vicious, is he? He's just
Yeah.
in his own world and just
Exactly.
it's all good. She loves me. What's going on?
Yeah.
Obviously, I tend to be a slightly food-based account.
Mm-hmm.
So I did enjoy that you got to eat biscuits quite a lot in that one.
Yes, everybody brings that up. I was like, we did that only like in 2 takes, and I was like, "Do you want me to eat these fun, like comedically?" And she was like, "You can do that," and I was like, "Yeah." I was like, I can eat cookies, like I can eat biscuits, like comedically." And so she's like, "Okay," and I did it, and the people will hit me up about how I ate how I ate the cookies. So I was like, "All right, I did my job."
I feel like there should be like a tie-in sponsorship here now.
Oh yeah, definitely. They're like, "Hey,
getting supplies of cookies.
do it how he did it. Do you want to enjoy cookies how Vaughn did?"
So now I really want to ask you about 2 of your bigger roles. So firstly, Heartless Husband Chasing Me Back.
Heartless Husband. I don't think anybody's going to realize what that role meant to me because, and I know that you've spoken about this, which I commend you for, is that there's not a lot of verticals with people of color as leads. And I had worked with Liang before. I worked with her on Final Call for Love, and I really loved working with her. And so when I found out about this role, it just meant a lot to me because it was like, oh, you see me that I could, he's a romantic rival. And Marcus's, his journey, even, the actor's name was Ethan. I forget what his character's name was, but his journey of going from, you know, heartless husband to heartful husband, there was a journey there. And first of all, I loved working with Ethan. I got to work with Christine again, who I'd worked with previously on my cold-hearted Alpha King, but she was such a great person to work with. They both made things so easy. And something as a quick side note with Ethan, we both loved Batman, and we both. So what we would do is, if anybody ever watches it again, I think it helped our intense scenes because we were like we were gonna have Batman offs. And so we would get really close and, you know, we would talk like this and stuff like that. And I was like, if Liang doesn't say anything, let's just keep doing it. And she never said anything. So I was like, all right, she likes what we're doing. And when I watched it, I was like, yo, it really helps the intense scenes. And he was one of my favorite actors to work with. Christine, again, she made things so easy. But what I liked about it was that Marcus wasn't a pushover. He was a good person. He doesn't try to sabotage them. And like he had there was a genuine friendship, and he genuinely cared about her. He wanted to see her happy. And I actually saw that the dude, that Ethan's character, was getting better. And I was shocked because that, you know, obviously on verticals, it's like, oh, it's about the man who's attractive, who has abs and yada, yada, yada. But people hit me up saying like, I was rooting for you.
I'm really unhappy about that one because you should have got the go.
I appreciate you saying that. No,
I mean, I was proper angry.
I
was like, right, I'm sorry, but you're gorgeous. The character is lovely. He's like a green flag king. There's some very nice suits going on as well, just to say you look sharp. Why is she not with him? Is it Brel? But when you're, the one lady who gets involved, who's trying to split up, who wants Franco for herself. She doesn't help.
The sister.
The sister. She muddies the water. But essentially, I'm sorry, and actually, it's the last time that happened was watching a Korean drama, because it's a well-known thing in Korean dramas that there are 2 very strong male leads, and often people would be like, why on earth didn't they get together with the other one? And it was like that. So I had a strop. I think a bowl was placed down heavily afterwards.
I appreciate you saying that. No, I anybody that says that to me, I took that as the utmost compliment. The fact that they could believably see us together, especially again in vertical world where you don't often see Black leads, you know, Afro-Latino leads. And I was so touched by that. My biggest thank you to Liang for giving me that opportunity and trusting me with such a role. the things that people said to me on set, like, production, the fact that they believed in me, the fact of what fans, which all said to me, like that role means so much to me. And I hope what I did with Marcus, that allows the door to be open for more, like, people of color to be in more prominent roles in verticals. So
yeah, we've got to make it happen, because I mean, I'm not even going to go into everything that shouldn't need to be said about it being blinking obvious and humanity and all that. I'm like, okay, if you just go from a pure money thing, and we know that's what a lot of these people are looking at, people will pay to look at people who look like themselves on screen.
Yeah, that's fair.
And you're basically, if you don't do that, you've just lost a lot of the globe. So it's like, hello. Also, I will watch a good love story. I don't mind what people,
That's what it matters. And
like, I go for a love story. I've watched stuff from Nigeria. I've watched stuff from Japan. I've watched stuff from Thailand. I'm there for the love story. I don't really mind what people look like. So
because that's what people are wanting. They want two people to be happy together.
Yeah. See, we've just made it quite simple for the world. It's like, boiled it down. I can tell you a writer. So I have to ask you about Victory Formation as well, because that is my favourite of everything that you've been in. And I gave it 5 stars and I love it so much.
Same. Victory Formation, again, I was helped out so much. Leah, she was part of casting, part of production. I've auditioned for her before, and she was like my champion. I looked at the role, and Kendrick is so far away from who I am. He has a confidence that I wish I had. There's a coolness that I wish I had. There's an intensity, like his style of it, because I was like, let me take jocks I knew, but the good ones, the ones that weren't jerks. And I never wanted to forget that for Kendrick. I was like, at the end of the day, I wanted people to recognize, like, he's not jealous of Gabriel. It's not that he doesn't believe in his sister, in Whitley. He's just overprotective, and he just needs to see that his sister is grown now. She's not that little kid. And oh man, I loved working on that set so much. I love playing Kendrick. Everything, and when I watched it, I loved everything about it. That's the one that I send people to, that I'm like, if you want to see my acting, I'm like, it actually seems like I'm a jock. And I was like, people would probably be disturbed. They'd be like, wait, he's the biggest nerd in the world, that guy? No, Kendrick was he was very special to me. That's one of my favorite roles I've ever played. Quick funny story: the speech that he does in front of everybody. All the extras are out there, and I'm standing under, I don't know if it's called a roof, but like, outside, like there's something over me, and it looks like it's going to rain. And like a jackass, I say that out loud. I was like, does anybody else think it's going to rain? And then I was like, oh my God, I've jinxed it. So, and then there was like a little bit of drip, and I was like, I'm going to make sure that these people are not here that long. So I did that speech as perfectly as I could every single time. Did it like 4 or 5 times, like for all the different angles. And one of my favorite acting experiences, a bunch of the background actors came up to me and were like, thank you so much. Because it rained like pretty much almost as soon as we were done. And they complimented me on my performance. And I thought I was like, thank God. Because I was like, I can't believe I jinxed the heavens by saying like, oh my God, it looks like it's about to rain, like while I'm safe under this thing. But it was, no, I loved working with all those people, the production team, the director. But like, again, I always gonna say, be thankful to the people that have helped me. And Leah St. Marie, like she was my biggest champion, and I would not have gotten the chance to play Kendrick if it not was her belief in me.
And you totally nailed that speech, by the way, as well. I mean,
thank you so much.
Good speech. Because I want to say about Kendrick, the thing I really like, and I think it's probably a combination of how good the script is, obviously based on the book, and also your acting, in that it would be easy to slip that character into it's just the overprotective big brother. But actually, Gabriel is quite wild at the beginning.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And very much. This football team is basically, there's a lot going on, and Kendrick's got to somehow pull it all together and go, look, this is where the boundaries are. He's got a sister who's also highly professional in this, and it's like trying to balance that and work with her. It's really well done, I think, is what I was just trying to say.
Oh no, it is. It is. Because the scenes with Whitley are just so. I never shied away from being heartfelt with either of them. Whether it be the apology that he has to give me. And I think he sold it. He sold it so well because like when our characters fight, it's sad. It's not. It's not like, oh, it's super intense. Like, obviously it is intense because, I'm hitting him, like, all the things are coming out. But like the audience is like, oh, they're not best friends anymore. Oh, him and his sister, they're mad at each other. And I wanted that to be a big thing, because I'm a big believer if your audience cares about these characters, the stakes don't have to be literally the end of the world. It doesn't have to be Transformers 7 for people
Yeah.
to care. They just need to care about these relationships. And I'm a firm believer in that. So I'm hoping we all three, those two definitely landed it. Those two actors, Cleara and, oh my God, I'm going to mess up his name. Kai, God, I'm so sorry. I'm pretty sure I got his name wrong, but those two, they brought it. And I always feel that way on a lot of sets. I'm like, I feel like everybody's bringing like their A+ game. I have to bring my A++ game because I want people to know I can play ball too. So yeah.
I also want to talk about Aubrey as well because I just love that character. And I think we all know people like that who's kind of basically the social glue.
Yeah.
Who just smooths it around and is that person who can say, he's looking out for you. This is how she's feeling. And she always looks amazing. She just sort of wafts in this beautiful skirt, makes it better, and then it goes on again.
She was perfect for that role. She was so funny. We met at lunch and you can't even make this up. We just happened to be sitting next to each other and I didn't know who it was. And so she's like, hey, are you playing Kendrick? I was like, yeah. And she was like, I'm playing your girlfriend. And she was so funny. We both like horror movies. So we connected on that. And we were just joking and laughing. And it was so easy to like play, her boyfriend. And there was just a comfort there. And that was a lot due to her, like, her just being such a great person, such a great soul, so super duper funny. And she got along with pretty much everybody on set, which was not surprising at all. And I think, like you said, it just shows on screen, like that she's that glue for everybody, even that scene where she's just pulling me in like, hey, apologize to your sister. Like that was, everything with her was super duper, like fluid, comfortable, stuff like that. I learned a lot from her on that set.
Oh, but I just want to say thank you for that project because it's just such a brilliant project and you brought so much to it.
Thank you so much.
I have to ask you about the writing. What is it like as someone who is professionally trained in script writing with some vertical scripts? And are you writing yourself now? What's it hold for you around that?
That is such a good question. I think writing has helped me with verticals because there have been a few times. I always say this. I say this to a bunch of directors when there is a moment where I'm like, hey, I don't really agree with this. If you can, as long as I can wrap my head around it logically, I can do it. I'll figure out a way to do it. And also with writing, it's like, I think that helps me with characters because I'm like, well, how would I want this to be read if this were my piece? And there've been a few times, me being a writer, I've approached directors and said like, hey, is it okay if I say this instead? Or if I only say this part? And I never come to a director without an argument, without a justification. And I want to say 100% they've understood where I've come from and they've let me do the thing. And they've allowed me that freedom. And I think that's how writing has helped me with verticals. And I think that's also helped me with performances, like as making it, like you said, as realistic and grounded as possible. And I understand there are verticals where people, need to be over the top and where it's embraced, it's more comedic and stuff like that. But I do think that grounded energy is also necessary because I need to justify to these people that it's like, oh, hey, like this is why this billionaire trusts this character. This is why he is best friends with this guy. This is why he's the lieutenant. So I think that, yeah, as far as that goes, I would love like the opportunity to write a vertical one day, I would not be against that. Um, I've had a few vertical pitches myself. Um, but other than that, I do write. I'm actually finishing. I'm like one or two scenes away from finishing a dramatic feature. I've been working on some short films. I'm on the side. I'm slowly working on a rom com. Uh, and the male lead, he is autistic, and and I was like, we should have a rom com as well, you know.
Yes, 100%.
Exactly. So I'm working on a number of projects, but like I'm almost done this dramatic feature. It's based on my dynamic with my mentor, and it's I've had a few table reads for it when it was just a short film, and it brought people to tears, which in a good way. In a good way. It had touched a lot of people, so I'm really excited about that project. Pretty soon I'm working on some on like drama on some crime dramas. What I try to do is I try and if I do like a drama, then I'm gonna work on a rom com. Then I'll work on a horror. I try and like I don't want to just like kind of like do the same thing over and over and over and over again. So yeah, there's a number of projects that I'm juggling, and I'm trying to direct some short films that I've written. So
Amazing. You sound mega busy.
mhm.
I just want to know, I'm just always intrigued about your writing process. Are you a laptop? How do you actually sit and write? Like
Okay.
what's your setup?
So I've been very lucky. I don't know what it is, but I've never had writer's block. I have the opposite problem. I have writer's influx. So let's just say me and you were hanging out, and let's say you were like, all right, fine, we're going to go to the bank, we're going to go to the zoo, and we're going to go to the post office, right? By the time we come back, I would have thought of at least two movies, whether interacting with somebody or somebody said something that was interesting. I was like, oh, like, overhearing someone's conversation, and you're just like, wow, like that's interesting. Where was that conversation going? What led to that conversation? And so I have all this issue where it's like kind of like, oh man, that's a really cool idea, but I have like 17 other ideas and I got to get those done first. And so, but my process is I'm a laptop type of person, and I have to write every day. That is part of my routine. If I don't write, I get upset. Um, so if you see me ever on a set when I'm by myself, if I'm not like, catching up on messages on my phone, I'm typing, I'm writing something, I'm fixing a scene. I just love writing so much. Like that's how I express myself. That's how I really express myself. Cause it's my thoughts being like, kind of like translated onto the paper. And some people ask, like, you have so many scripts, like, do you ever get those characters confused? I'm like, how would you? These characters, they're like my friends. You don't like, they know me. I know them. Like, yeah, they might have similar like jobs, but I'm like, they're completely different people. Different creeds, cultures, sexualities, genders, walks of life. I would never confuse them. So sometimes what I do when I'm like in a real like momentum mode, which I don't recommend to a lot of writers, because it is insane. I'll put my Apple Music on and I'll put it on shuffle. And whatever the song lands on, whatever song I can imagine that being in whatever script, I write for that as long as I can until the next song pops off. And then I switch to another script and just do that. And I love doing it. It's a big crash course. But yeah, I love doing that.
I honestly think there's a whole separate career, if you wanted it, of just basically teaching people how to write and just encouraging them, because like
I
anyone
would
who's a
love to.
writer, I just want them to listen to what you just said there, because that's so
Yeah.
inspiring.
Oh, I would love to. I would love to teach writing. I used to when I was younger. I taught. I had a job where I went to schools and I would teach kids how to write. And I think a former writer that I knew, we stayed up till like 4 a.m, and because we went to college together, we went to university together, and he was saying like, I loved hanging out with you because you always had us use our minds creatively, and that's what I would want. I think there's so many people out there who are afraid to express themselves, and then there's so much creativity out there, and like they just needed to get it out there. And I would love to do that. I recommend to people. My mentor taught me this, and I would say this to anybody. There's a freebie for anybody. Go out, whether it's a tape recorder or a pad and paper, go out to coffee shop, restaurant, any public place, sit by yourself and listen to a conversation, write down their dialogue, pay attention to how they're try and be as close to how they're saying it as possible. And then either you leave or wait to them to leave and finish it. Finish that story and figure out where you want it to go. Or again, write the scene right before it and just see where it goes. That's a freebie lesson for, not a lesson, but like, an exercise.
No, that's amazing. Oh, thank you. So I just have to ask before we finish, because you've been so kind with your time. Have you got any sort of immediate projects coming up, vertical wise, that we should be looking out for on our phones?
There was one I had done. What was one that I had done not too long ago? I got to work with JJ Michaels and Tatiana.
Oh, it's just come out.
That just came out. I'd done that not too long ago.
Again, food.
Yeah, the baking one. Yeah, I want to say Love, Lies, and Desserts. My bad if I got that title wrong. I am in that, and I play Oscar, and that was the director let me play a little bit with it, and it was such a joy to work with those two. To work with JJ and Tatiana, they are two of some of the nicest people. Like JJ, he's got that whole Matthew McConaughey thing going for him, and he is just, I think it comes out in his performance. Like he is that kind. Like he is really effing sweet. Cause if there was a world where I could do a buddy cop thing with him, like, cause he's a country boy, I'm a city guy, I think that would be brilliant. Obviously, like, I think we talked about this before. I want to do a vertical about just this called Sidekicks with just me and Lays.
You know, I'm so there for that. I'm just well, when is it happening?
I would love that. I'm like, come on, let's do Rush Hour and Vertical World. Like people would love that. But no, that I had done that with them, and I'm cool. I'm really good friends with Tatiana now because of that. Such a great person that had recently come out. I think, but beyond that, I think Victory Formation was kind of like that was the biggest thing that I was like kind of like really pushing, because anybody that wants to watch it, I'm just like, yeah, please do that. I loved working with Candy Jar, they're called now, before it was Galatea, but I recommend Candy Jar, Astraworks, those companies, they believed in me. Viglu as well. Like, they believed in me, but I think other than that, I have a few things lined up, crossing my fingers, final rounds of things. But no, if there was anything, I'd probably say push. I'm like, cause we both love Victory Formation. I'd please tell people to watch that, cause I'm very proud of that piece. The actors were great. The story was great. And definitely like, Lies, Love, Lies, and Desserts. Like those were, I saw a review. They were basically talking about how these were two very sweet people that you really wanted to see them happy. Yeah. And he's not beating her. He's not talking down to her. He's not throwing her around. He's not mistreating her. Like, it's just two sweet people that found each other. And that's what I liked about that script.
Yeah, so. It is utterly adorable. It works. Just finally, because you've touched on it, this might be an impossible question. Who is the best actor at Batman so far? And which is the Batman movie people should start with? So not the best one, but the one they should start with.
Oh, that's a good question. That second one. Okay, I will say this. I'm an 80s baby, so I will admit I'm probably biased. My favorite is Keaton. However, I will say this. My second favorite is actually Robert Pattinson.
Ooh, I like it. Curveball.
Yes. Yeah, he's my second favorite. I was just like, I liked that, growing up, reading the comics, I'd always be like, why is it like the police don't trust Batman? He's fighting for the side of justice. And then I saw Robert Pattinson playing Batman, and I was like, oh, yeah, he's an oddball. I get it. Like, they're just like, hey, Batman, do you know where the evidence is? And he's like, it's over there in the corner. And it's just like, oh yeah, that's why they don't trust you, because you're being kind of strange and eccentric in the corner. I loved what he did with it, but yeah, I'm a Keaton guy. the one that they should start with, that is I would say, you know, if I were to honestly tell somebody like, hey, if you really want to watch Batman, you really want to understand it, I'd say watch the animated series. I really mean that. But if they meant like, hey, like watch movie wise, I do like Batman Begins. My favorite is Batman Returns.
Yeah.
Like that look of Gotham is like that gothic Victorian, like, and Michelle Pfeiffer's performance as Catwoman, like, oh man, like she deserved at least an Oscar nomination for that. Like I loved her turn as that, but I do understand the, like, to let somebody know like, hey, like watch Batman Begins. Like that was, I think that was a well put together Batman film. So I'd say those two.
They are very, very good answers. I just want to say thank you so much. You're an absolute superstar.
Jen,
I'm so grateful for your time.
I'm grateful for your time. The things that you've been doing, I fully support, and I think you're great. I don't know if anybody's told you that. I think they should, because this interview was great. You were fantastic. It was, I really appreciate you taking the time. Your time is precious. You are awesome. And thank you for supporting me and supporting all these other actors, everything that you've done. You deserve this round of applause.
I've got all English now. I can't cry.
So yeah.
Yeah, honestly, thank you.